Doing?
Yeah, really good. Thanks. And yourself?
It's good. The work and home situation's unique and odd in a nice way. I get lost in time very frequently. Of normally kick off my shoes at 7 o'clock in the morning, and by 7 in the evening, Mr. W is saying it's time for dinner, and the 12 hours in between, it's kind of like where they go. And in the office, you tend to lose the visual cues of people going for cups of coffee, going for lunch, going for home for the evening. So the only cue I get is an alarm in the morning and my wife saying it's time for dinner. So it's been an interesting time.
Yeah, that's good. It's certainly changed a lot of, I guess, how everybody's routines have changed. I think we're about 100 days into the COVID lockdown now, and yeah, we've been running a series of videos at Tenzig, and we're keen to hear how our customers are adapting and handling the different curveballs and how they've been managing to juggle them during the pandemic. So we're certainly here keen to hear how your environment has been leveraged, or has it had to adapt, and to see how it's all gone for you.
Okay.
I'm really pleased and honoured that you could join us on this, Tony. Out of all of our customers, you're certainly one of a very astute and forward-thinking customer. It's been a pleasure to work with you over this time that you've been using Tenzig, and it's definitely good that you've got a very honest and straightforward way of asking for things or getting your point across, giving feedback, and that's been really good because that's how we adapt our products to fit our customers' requirements. So, yeah, thank you for joining today. So, I guess a bit to start would be good to hear a bit about your role at the Phoenix Group and a bit about the organisation that you work for as well.
Okay, so let me do a reverse order of the organisation. So the Phoenix Group is a FTSE 100 company. It's probably a company that most people have never heard of, but will have heard of the brands that it looks after. So historically, the organisation was born out of pension and insurance companies like Britannic Assurance and Pearl Assurance and other similar brand names that you may remember from the 80s. Those customers carry on contributing their pension schemes, their insurance policies, but the name on the top of the door now is the Phoenix Group. So we look after people's money, basically. We have assets, actually over £200 billion worth of assets, and simply that's people's money we're investing in buildings, investments, stocks, gilts, and that really across the whole of the market space to diversify our risk overall. We are an acquisitive company vis-a-vis, we buy companies because essentially as individuals claim on their insurance policies or their pensions mature, ultimately the company would subsequently just go down and down and down to zero. So we have to keep on filling up the hopper. About 3 years ago, we purchased part of Deutsche Bank, an element called Abbey Life. From AXA, we bought their wealth business from them and also Sun Life. And in September 2018, our biggest purchase of all actually was Standard Life. So we came from very much a closed insurance company to a closed and open book. So Standard Life as a brand trades today, will trade in the future as it is. And as such, we carry on servicing customers both internally and closed in the Phoenix Group, but externally with Sun Life and also with the Standard Life operations as well. So we've grown from a company base of about 1,000 employees to over 5,500, and that journey continues. So again, in the public domain is that Phoenix are in sort of latter discussions purchasing ReAssure, so that further extends the Phoenix footprint in the closed book insurance market space. And the goal that we've had over the past 18 months of being Europe's largest closed book group actually is the place. So that's our journey, that's our destination. And with the further purchases of ReAssure, we head up the FTSE 100, which has been an ambition for the organisation for a long time. So my role is what's called the Heritage Phoenix organisation. So the original 1,000 people, I look after from an IT perspective. I've been with the Phoenix Group now for 9 years. My role not only is about service delivery, but it really encompasses everything that the organisation does, from making sure that IT is highly available, that we have a team of people who deliver the service to all of our users to the high satisfaction possibly, and also to make sure that the service is highly available. part of that journey has been to allow and enable the Citrix across the estate, and it has been for that 9-year period, which is very transformative, but also quite visionary in the way in which it was done, risky in the same breath as well. We had lots of teething problems because the organisation that did the integration work for us struggled somewhat over the first 2 or 3 years. But certainly thereafter, once we'd sorted out the technology debts that we inherited as a result of insourcing IT in 2016, we've had a very good series of service availability. But the key thing really is with regards to the position surrounding COVID-19. So historically, we would have what's called snow days, whereby the majority of people, unless they're full by force, couldn't get into the office. We struggled with technology or licensing that's scuppered people, all the users being able to work at home. And the big ambition, given the foray of activity in late February and early March, is that the likelihood that people were being forced to work at home. And I planned for basically Friday the 13th, a day that I'm superstitious about anyway, to actually be the first day that we fully worked at home. This is all employees with Inherited Phoenix working at home. Bearing in mind that snow days had previously only allowed up to 300 users to connect remotely. On that day, we connected over 900 people remotely. The other 100 were using either laptop devices, again, small number, or actually on holiday or off sick. So largely, we connected every single user to the system. No service disruptions, no performance degradation. That was driven through planning and preparation. It's fair to say that for about 2 weeks, I anguished before this, night and day, to make sure that the test was successful and effective. It was. To the event on the day itself, I'd organised tea and coffee in the morning, there was lunch organised, breakfast. It was all organised and orchestrated to that extent to make sure it went well. And since that day, on Friday the 13th, with the subsequent enforced working at home, we've had very high service availability. In fact, there have been no major disruptions whatsoever. Everybody is very complimentary to the service that they've received from an IT perspective, the fact that it's operational all the time. And we've come out the other side with people using your equipment at home to enable them to work. Now, what does that mean? So historically, as an organisation, and maybe others in the financial services industry and the sector, we're very wary of allowing people to work at home. And I've actually heard the chairman say, people skiving at home on a Friday or whatever day they chose to work at home. As a result of that, some people had their own IT at home, but there's a fair collective that either couldn't or wouldn't work at home at any stage during the week, because culturally those values are embedded in them, or they couldn't for whatever reason. But for that population, which is about 25-30% of our user base, they now have Tenzig devices at home. And what that basically means is that they can be in the office at home. And in fact, the brand name internally is the office experience at home, because that's exactly what they get. To allow that to happen, given that, again, one of the visions is that the device may ultimately return back to the office. It may not, but let's assume for the moment it does. Given that you sell wireless devices and most people have wireless at home, I was keen not to buy a device that was only suitable for home. So we basically purchased from yourselves a series of devices that are the standard office ones. We then use power line adapters to convert Ethernet from the router to the Tenzig device and allowing people to work literally at home as if they're in the office, and it's been transformative.
And so for these users who are working at home with the office experience at home, are they, you've got a couple of screens set up, you've got a keyboard and a mouse, and they kind of set these up on their desk? Is that how you, Yeah,
absolutely. So the prerequisite is you've got a suitable desk, you've got a chair, there's no trip hazards, but essentially people have, a full-size monitor, a regular keyboard, a regular mouse, and either behind or in front of that monitor is the Tenzig device. As I said, literally is like they're in the office.
That's really good. And what was the drive to do that? What was from a business perspective or an IT perspective or a HR perspective? What was the drive to do that, as opposed to what the other options that you could have chosen?
So very simply, there really was only one choice, and that's the Tenzig device. And the reason why I say that is because, as an organisation, we've never actively pursued the option of laptops. And at that time, back in early March, laptops were very, very difficult to get hold of. In fact, my colleagues in Standard Life who purchased laptops, a large number of them are still awaiting delivery from their respective organisations. So laptops really weren't an option. People who therefore didn't have IT, you were the guys with your equipment that allowed us to deploy that to people at home, to allow us as an organization to carry on working business as usual. In fact, the organization is very proud, and in fact the chairman has been on Sky News to say that nobody, 0 persons from the Phoenix Group, has been furloughed throughout this whole cycle. So we're full employment, and indeed are recruiting more people and more staff to work on projects that we're doing, like the Reassure integration that will be upcoming over the next few months, and other activities. And the starting point is their home devices, a Tenzing device. So it's a mobile phone, your device, keyboard, monitor, and mouse, and they're up and running at home. And in fact, one of the IT team members has joined recently, was interviewed via a platform like this. Actually, we use Blue Jeans. Has never been in the office, has never actually shook the hands of his new manager. Is now managing a team of 35 people, and has only ever met them virtually. So we're, as an organisation, living the transformative way in which we're currently working.
That's really cool. That's good. That's good. If in terms of these devices, then you're giving to users, how are they setting them up? How are you managing them? How's that all coming together?
So apart from the initial filter to make sure that people have these devices safely at home, they're then really just connected up to the users working at home. The Tenzing console then has the ability to manage them operationally, so we can see what users are connected, which ones aren't. We don't do any form of looking over people's shoulder, but nonetheless we can see who's actually connected if we wish to do so. Provide remote support, so with the VNC integration on the console, we can actually connect to users and support them that way if they've got an issue outside of Windows, where we have other abilities to actually connect to users. So the example I use is the chairman's PA started the organisation back in January, February, and given that we don't actually allow users to have laptops, in fact we don't really buy them at all, was literally send this home office in a box to a home, and within 30 minutes of receiving it, she was up and running at home with this new equipment. Very, very straightforwardly, it's very simple. It literally is plug it in, few cables, and then you're up and running.
Yeah, that's really good. And obviously, make sure that there's no cables for trip hazards and things like you said,
yeah.
And then they can be as productive as if they were in the office. In
fact, I would say that most people are probably being even more productive, because there's a sense of, is there somebody looking over my shoulder? I don't want to be the one that's skiving or caught skiving. I used my example earlier on that literally it's almost like a 12-hour day that I'm doing, and to the extent that because I'm almost like a fixed focal length on my monitors during the day, I'm actually going to Specsavers tomorrow for an eye test because I think my eyesight slightly failed as a result of it. So it has been transformative.
Interesting.
And as I said, the key message is, at the time in early March, late March, early April, laptops were impossible to get. And because we had store of your devices, we were able to fulfill the requirements of people working at home. And in fact, to this day, we're still maybe sending 1 or 2 devices out a day, but it certainly peaked in the early parts of sort of March and April to users sending those devices home.
Okay, that's good. If you did have a load of laptops, would you have chosen laptops over thin clients, or?
I think for some users it would have been appropriate because of the space in their homes may not support cables and monitors and keyboards, whereas of course the laptop is a short-term fix to the requirements. But again, I say short-term because the issue then potentially is health and safety in respect of poor posture, RSI issues. So actually a laptop might be a short-term solution to the problem, but given the likelihood of our organization working at home, certainly at least for the next 3 months, a laptop really wouldn't have been a sustainable solution. Now you could argue put a keyboard on, put a mouse, but again you then back into, well, I could have done that, but actually with a Tenzing device I could have had 4 or 5 devices for the price of a laptop.
Yeah. And does the management overhead and the security overhead of having that extra Windows OS on the endpoint have any concerns as well, or have you got,
No, not at all. No. So the OS itself can be centrally managed, centrally patched. We go through yourselves with that, but also firm releases. As an environment, I mentioned earlier on that we're an acquisitive organisation. So there's other Phoenix Group, there's Standard Life, there's Reassure. and you very kindly helped us out with some development work of that one terminal being able to access those 3 different IT islands. So there's ours at the core, but through enablement through networks, we then are able to get from that one device through to those 2 other organizations rather than having 3 terminals. And if I turn the clock back 6 months ago, prior to Reassure, we actually had maybe 20, 30 users who on their desk had not only a Tenzig device, but had an iGel device as well, which is Standard Life's preferred device for their desktop services. So it's been transformative in many different ways.
That's really good. So tell us a little bit about how you found Tenzig, your journey about choosing Tenzig, and why you chose Tenzig ultimately. Because you're a fairly new customer to us. You placed an order in, I guess, the last 9 months or so. So why did you choose Tenzig?
So we've had a Tenzig device in our building probably for about 4 years, and that's a result of not that I went, but one of the solution architects went to one of the conferences at the time, and that they're now been disposed of. We actually had Dell Zero clients as our Citrix entry point. The biggest problem with those devices, as reliable as they were, was all about performance, and the performance especially on video replay, to the point at which videos, even at the very basic level from, let's say, iPlayer, were unwatchable. From YouTube on low quality were kind of watchable if it was a small screen, but you put it full screen, just didn't work. And we demonstrated even in our Windows 7 environment that again has technology that dates back to 2012 from a Citrix perspective. On your devices, we could actually, with their quad-core capability, display at a reasonable level the quality of the video as it was intended to be seen. Again, it's all about timing. The timing wasn't quite right for us to replace those devices. So those devices have been in the background, prepared as one solution. Now, given we had a historic relationship with Dell Wise, with yourself, and also with the purchase of the Standard Life organization, iGel, so there were 3 devices on the table. We very quickly discounted the Dell device because of the inflexibility of Dell in a development sense, in the fact that if you wanted to do anything, because it's a much larger machine and an organization probably couldn't, and certainly demonstrated they didn't have the time to do the sort of upgrades that we indicated we might do. It was a 2-horse race. Initially, again, to try and keep that synchronization of hardware in between organizations, iGel indeed, and be frank with you, what was the device of choice? But one of the reasons, or the main reason for changing the device, wasn't so much about video replay or Windows 7, was actually Windows 10. And Windows 10 and the offloading of the video onto that local device was key to us to take the processing away from the data center. And the initial assessment with the iGel device was such that with the many releases of the firmware they gave us, the actual performance of the device was okay, was equivalent to yours, but the big issue actually was reliability. In fact, it regularly crashed. And throughout the whole cycle of reviewing of the hardware, the Tenzig device remained effective, operational, without issue, and just went through all the way. And they came to a stage where we wanted to buy them. So we had to make a decision to walk with our checkbook this time now. So, and we chose, for all the right reasons, the Tenzig device, and primarily that's about reliability, but also about the console as well. So it's a little bit like Lotus Notes. If you've ever used the program, Microsoft Outlook and Lotus Notes, they're an email application in its basic sense. And Lotus Notes can do far much more technically than Microsoft Outlook, but Outlook is just a much easier tool to use, and it just does what it says in the tin. So I can use many analogies. I can use Beta and VHS as another example, but the Tenzig console was just hands down just much more easy to use. The console, therefore, for the iGel devices was good, but just too cumbersome, too clever, almost for its own good. So those 2 key factors were the primary ones for choosing Tenzig as our chosen device. It wasn't about money. It ultimately comes down to it to an extent, but ultimately if the device doesn't work and is not reliable, it gets excluded completely. So that's the reason why we chose the devices.
Okay, that's good feedback. Thank you, Tony. Yeah, it's good to hear about the management tool as well. So, yeah, I guess You pretty much answered everything. I think it's probably worth mentioning that the devices that you do have are Tenzig's Citrix Zero clients. And again, was there any reason that you liked the Tenzig devices, the Zero clients, or do you have any feedback?
I mean, another thing that came to mind with regards to the iGel devices was connectivity. So we were also replacing keyboards, mice, and monitors at the same time.
Okay.
So moving away from DVI connectivity, well, surprise, surprise, to connect the new monitors that had either DisplayPort or HDMI as the connectivity, we would have had to have a converter cable on the iGels. With yourselves, out of the box with Dell, you actually get a DisplayPort cable, and thankfully your devices, I know you do two options, but for us, had two DisplayPort outputs that enabled our sort of more complex users, those doing spreadsheets day in, day out, or need to review data side by side on two different screens, allowed us to make those individuals be more effective. Personally, I have had dual screens, what must be, I'm about to show my age at the moment, about 20 years now I've had a dual screen. In fact, my very first one, when I used to work for IBM, I actually bought myself because it was invaluable. It just made me so much more effective. And I've now migrated onto 3 screens. So I think the 4 is a bit too much. But I mean, literally, I've got a sort of row of screens in front of me that make me more effective. So with your device and 2 outputs, it is brilliant. And you very kindly have loaned me for demonstration a 4K device. So actually now I'm back to 3 devices again. So yeah, it's been transformative to actually have these devices at people's desks, and that's the reason why we chose them.
That's good. Thanks. Have you got anything to say? Did you, when you were testing Tenzig, did you ever have any support requests or issues with us? Did we have to fix anything?
I think it's fair to say that the teams did regularly speak to your technical support teams to get things changed in order to our environment. The use of HDX, which allows the offloading of video, was, I wouldn't say a challenge, but it has to be the right version of HDX on the Tenzig device. As mentioned earlier on, you also help with the development of the what we call triple boot, the enablement to log into our environment, and 2 of our other subsidiaries. That was transformative. And because of time pressures initially just for the standard life element, you very kindly turned that development around very, very quickly in days. And that was, amazing to experience. And it's almost like when the salesman says, I'll deliver it tomorrow, you kind of turn your back and put the phone down and go, yeah, okay, sure you will. But you did. And I respect you for your openness, your honesty, and the fact that you do what you say in the tin. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's fortunately I'm just a sales guy, so I'm not the guy who's having to, the team who's having to do the hard work in the background. And
no, but you're the one that gets the heartache from me if you said it's going to be next Tuesday and it's Wednesday night and you still haven't delivered. You'll get it, not the individuals.
Yeah, no, exactly. But it's testament to the team that we have, both in the UK and around the world, who pull this together and do our development. And that's certainly something we're very, very fortunate at Tenzig to have such a good team that can deliver items such as that. So I'll pass on your comments to them. Thank you.
Okay. And for that very reason, and hopefully anybody looking at this video will, and you've not prompted me to say this, of course, I would highly recommend the devices that you have. I'd highly recommend, as an organisation, your values and what you do, as really demonstrated over the past however long it is, 15-20 minutes of this discussion, to anybody as a testament to your product.
Thanks. It's really kind of you to say so. Thank you, Tony. Okay. Well, I guess we're probably coming to it and then towards the end of the call now. Is there anything that you'd like to add, or anything else?
I suppose my only question would be, where are your devices going next? I mean, what would entice me to replace my devices within the next 5 years? Is there anything of any USP, anything you would like to sell to me?
To be honest, there's a lot of new software features coming. So the likes of unified comms is obviously very important for all of our customers, certainly right now. For home working, it's becoming a norm. So we're using Zoom right now as a mechanism to record this call. We have integrated a Zoom optimization pack into our NOS Zero clients, so for Citrix and for VMware Horizon, and we have, and that's pretty.
Does Teams also feature as well?
Sorry,
and Teams as well.
Yes, so we have in early access release available now a Teams optimization pack for NOS Zero client for Citrix. It's not quite ready for VMware, but Teams is pretty good. It's, as I say, it's early access release, so it's not fully supported by Citrix, but they are encouraging us to give it to customers to test. So Tony, you're very welcome to join that test program. And yeah, the feedback I'm getting is pretty good. It supports voice, video, screen sharing, and I think it'll only get better as Citrix continue to work on it. But there's various pieces of hardware that we have developed and are releasing as well, similar to the one that you've got on demo, where that's got a up to 4 screen capability. We describe it as 3+1. It's because the 4th screen is connected by USB rather than straight onto the board like a normal display port or HDMI port. So that 4th screen is not great. The performance on that fourth screen is not great. You'll see it's not got quite the refresh rate that the other screens will have. I'm sure there'll be some other devices in the next 6 to 12 months that we release as well. But the current range of hardware is very capable and can deliver everything you'd need for video calling and multi-screen support and things like that. So yeah, it's good. And certainly I think the key things at the moment are these video calling agents that sit on the Zero clients. They're the exciting pieces that a lot of customers really want at the moment. So yeah, that's what we've got coming. Thanks for asking that question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Tony. Well, really appreciate your time today. Really appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with us and to explain the hurdles you've faced and the way you've dealt with it, and how the Phoenix Group has strived in this difficult time. I'm sure it was hard for you, but it sounds like you did it and passed it with flying colours. So yeah, good work.
And for me, I would say you're one of the very few partners we truly collaborate with. So we're in this arm in arm together to make a difference to our to your business, to our business, and it works really well. So thank you.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thanks again, Tony, and I'm sure I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much. All the best. Bye bye.